I also want to say I will be recording the session. This is so we can share it with those that might not have been able to attend today. And so I'll be recording the session. All right, so let me start. I'm Serge Lemo. I am the founder CEO of TekZone. And something unique about me, last week I talked about languages, where I can at least communicate in some way, form or fashion, in about 5 languages. I fluently know about 3 of them. And so that's something unique about me. And I'm in the book group because I recently discovered reading. I discovered a lot of information can just be obtained freely out there in the books, and so I can't stop reading anymore. So that's why I'm in the book group. Okay, so let's start with Jacques. Jacques, can you give your intro, just your name, a little bit something about you, and then why you're in this book group?
Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Jacques Taku. I'm currently in Chicago. Something unique about me, I'm not even sure. It's always hard to be caught in like that. I don't know. I used to be a soccer referee, and one day I got almost beat up by 11 years old when I was 25 because I was a bad referee during the game. So they chased me after the game, like a group of maybe 10 people, and I was running and the kids were running behind me. That's something memorable. I don't know if that's unique, but it's memorable. Yeah. Why am I in the book club? Honestly, I think it's just a way for me to get the motivation to read more. I, I I already had this book when I saw that it was part of the book club, but I realized that I had it, but I had never read it. So it was maybe a way for me to get additional motivation to read more.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jacques. Nervous? Okay. Looks like Nervous may be having some network issue. Romaric?
Okay. Can you hear me, I think?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, hello everyone. So I'm Romaric Topna, aka Dr. Tar. The reason I'm participating to this book discussion is that a couple of months before I've decided to read one book per month, but it was a little bit difficult for me to achieve my goal because I was setting some goals. I'll finish this book before the end of the month, but 2 months after, the book is still there and I have not yet finished the book. So I would say, as Jack, the reason of participating to this group discussion is to get additional motivation to read the book efficiently and get what I want to get out of it. And the something unique about me, I'll not say unique, but particular about me is that I like to learn. Like I said during the last session, since high school, I'm like, when I see something new and I think I can get something out of it, I want to learn it, and I want to learn it and share it with other people. So by participating to this group discussion, it would make me able to learn more and share what I'll learn with other people. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Romaric. Nervous, are you back? Nervous? Okay. So I think he's having some challenges with his mic here. We're gonna get this going.
So maybe you can. So I also had some challenges because Okay, it looks like he wrote that it's his internet connection. So I think you gave me the permission to use the mic,
That's
and I
right.
had to click twice to accept.
Uh,
So I didn't know that I had to click to accept. So that's why I had some challenges at the beginning. So maybe if he doesn't know that, it might. But it looks like he's having a different problem.
yeah, it told me here that he's having an internet connection issue, which is why. Okay. So since some of you weren't here last week, we'll do a quick review of what we discussed last week, so that it can at least give you some background on what this book group is about, and then we will then move on to covering essentially the two topics of today.
Oh, Serge, are you trying to share your screen with us? Hello.
Serge, we cannot hear you.
Yeah, me too. I cannot hear him too. I think he's trying to share the screen with us. I think it's probably the case. He's back.
You guys still back there?
Yeah, we're there.
Okay, good. Yeah, it looks like it disconnected. Thankfully, I'm back. I was trying to share my screen with you, so I'm going to try that again.
Normally, there's a space. I'm using the mobile application, so there's a space for the screen. So we're supposed to see both your screen and you. So normally, you're not supposed to disappear before showing your screen.
Yeah, it did something, but you should start to see my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
Okay. Okay, we can see it. I can see it.
Okay. Jacques, can you see it?
Yeah.
Perfect. So last week, I'm going to give you just a quick review of what we talked about last week. So last week, I started by talking about this story of the kidney. This is an urban legend that talks about a business person that travels to a city, gets to that city, he has a business meeting, and he has some time to kill, so he goes to a bar. It's in the evening, and a very attractive lady approaches him and says, "Hey, well, you're new to this city. Can I offer you a drink?" And he says, "Yes, of course." So she gets him a drink, and he takes a drink, she takes one, they both drink, and then the last thing he remembers until he wakes up in the morning, and he is in a tub full of ice. And there's a little note that tells him to use the phone that's next to the tub to call 911. His kidney is
Someone needs to go on mute.
Yeah, someone needs to go on mute. Okay. And so, and essentially he calls 911, and 911 confirms that, yep, there's a group of people in the city. They're going around harvesting kidneys, and selling the kidneys. And so this is a story that's written, that essentially touches on what this book, is about. If I stop here and ask you to retell the story that I just told you, chances are you're probably going to be able to tell me that story. You're probably going to be able to tell me the important parts of the story that we just talked about. Chances are, if someone asks you in 1 week or 1 month or even maybe 1 year, you probably will still remember the essentials of the story. You will remember that there were some people who were stealing kidneys and they were trying to lure people by giving them drinks. You probably will forget the details around it. Like, it was a businessman. If I gave you the name, you probably forget, or the name of the city, you probably forget, but you will remember the essential, the core of that message. So the question is, what makes that message rememberable or memorable, and some other messages not memorable? And that's what this book is about, because if you communicate, if you have a product, you do marketing, you do any of those things, whatever you convey, you want people to remember. And you want people to remember the core of it. And so what this book does is it gives you a blueprint to make that happen. Okay. So that's what we talked about last time. And so what I'm going to do, let me jump over to, so let me first go to this slide. And so the blueprint that was given last time is that there are really two things you have to do. First, you need to strip your idea down to its core. You need to make sure that you only keep what is essential to the idea. Then you need to apply what's in step 2 here. It's called success. You can see the acronym success by looking at the first letters of every bullet. And so success is essentially this code that helps you understand, okay, if I hit all of these different points, then more than likely this story will be remembered and it will stick on people's mind, which is the whole concept of the book, making an idea stick. Yeah. So last week we talked about simple. How do you make an idea simple? About things like the tapper listener concept. We did a test last week where I would tap a song and then have people try to guess what the song is. And we saw that that doesn't work so well, because when we have a lot of knowledge, we tend to abstract things. So we need to be able to make it much more concrete. This week, we're going to talk about unexpected and concrete. Okay, those are the two things that we're going to talk about this week. All right. Jacques, you said you have the book. Have you read it yet?
I've started.
Okay, what chapter are you at?
I think I'm chapter 4.
Chapter 4. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So we were reading chapter 2 and 3
Yes,
this
last
week.
last week was introduction on chapter 1. Yeah, I missed that.
Perfect. Okay, so you read the chapter on unexpected, and then you also read the chapter on concrete, right?
Yes.
Okay. Romaric, did you read any? I don't think you have. You didn't have the book last week. Romaric, you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. Did you read or listen to any part of the book?
No, nope, not yet.
Okay.
I tried to download the book online, but I got a weird version of it.
Okay. Romaric?
I can.
Not Romaric, sorry, Nervous. Yeah, I think he's still having problems.
Remind me after this session, I can share the electronic version that I have with you. I didn't want to say that on the platform because I don't know if I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah, I know what you mean
Okay.
there. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's go on to unexpected. It was a very interesting chapter for me. So before we cover whatever is on the slide, actually, I'm going to stop sharing so we can have a conversation. I guess, Jacques, what did you find in that chapter that talked about unexpected? What stood out the most?
I think so. I think the main idea for me was that you have to do something unusual. So basically, if you're trying to convey a message, you know that okay, every time I don't know, someone wants to give a warnings or tell a piece of story. I mean, when there is a new story and people want to tell them, you will just sit down and say, hey, listen, this is what happened here. And then you will go ahead and tell the story. So basically, the idea is for you to do something unusual. I don't know. So I remember this example where a flight attendant, instead of just giving the usual message to people before the plane takes off, would do something like use Mickey Mouse voice to give the
Yeah,
instruction or do something. So do something that people don't usually see in that special circumstances, and it would make people remember. Because of that, people will remember what you were saying. Again, it might go back to the topic of last week where you don't remember every single details, but it would make you at least remember that okay, this person used this particular technique to talk about this, and you will have the main idea stick.
yep. That's correct. I mean, the same thing about the flight attendant. That is the one that stood out the most, right? Because I've been on many flights, and Southwest, I think it was Southwest and Spirit Airline. Those two airlines, they have just unusual ways of making you pay attention, because all of them are saying the same thing. So we already know what they're going to say, and since we already know what they're going to say, our brain just isn't interested in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And since our brain is not interested, we don't remember. So it won't store that information. We'll listen and it'll just go into one ear and out the other without staying in our brain at all. I think, what's much more interesting is why is that? Why does our brain not retain that information? Do you remember anything from that chapter that they talked about, Jacques?
Why? I mean, I don't understand your question. Why does it not remember the information?
Yeah, so why does our brain not memorize things that are usual?
I think I don't know if this comes out of the chapter, but I think you first of all you have a lot of things going on, and you have to filter and remember the one that I mean, you have to filter and remember some. And the goal of this chapter is to say, look, you have to focus your attention on this information, and as soon as the brain has your attention, you have to keep it, because your brain could have the information for 5 seconds or 1 minute, but how do you keep it so long as to get the idea into the brain before the attention goes away? And the goal of those techniques is to first gather your attention and then keep it there for the time that you need to get the idea across.
Yeah. And the right term there is that filter, right? It's critical. Romantic, any thoughts on that? I know you didn't read
Yes.
the book, but just.
Yes, I think.
Hmm.
Please what?
No, I said I know you didn't have a
Yes.
chance to
I
read it.
think not yet. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. I think the about the question why our brain is filtering the information we are gathering in order to decide what we are going to remember after or not. The first thing is that we cannot remember everything, and since we cannot remember everything, uh, we have to automate some tasks. So when we are getting information, uh, to get focused on what we are doing, we have to try to decide what we want to remember and what we don't want to remember. And most of the time, our brain tries to focus on the main topics or the most impactful one, and try to connect them together in order to let us guess after what are the missing information. So we are like remembering the information that we can use after to like predict or to adjust the information we haven't stored. I think that's my point. So we are just keeping the main information, and those information can be used after to like connect with the missing one.
Yeah, it's almost like you read the book there, Romaric, because that's exactly what it says. In fact, I don't know if it was in this book or a different book, but it talks about the fact that um, we are primate, right? So from in the past where we didn't have these houses and guns and things like that to protect us, we relied on our senses to protect us. And so if you think about like our ears or our nose or our eyes, there's a lot of information coming into our brain to process. So what the
Yeah,
brain does is it looks at all of that information and it tries to decide what is new. Because what is new is what it needs to bring your attention to. That way you can make a quick decision, which could be life or death decision, right? Like if you're walking in the bushes and then you hear a noise, that's a new noise that you haven't heard before. That may be a lion ready to jump on you. So the brain has to filter everything else out and make you pay attention to that specific noise. And so the same way, what it says in the book is that we have what's called schemas, and these schemas are ways that we store and keep information. And if something fits and align with our schema, then we don't really memorize it because we already have the schema. So if I get in a plane and I know that the flight attendant will say, pay attention to the monitors. Here's how you put your seatbelt. Here's how you take it out. Here where the exits are. I'm not going to pay attention to that because I already know. However, I cannot prevent my ears from listening. So if while my ear is listening, the flight attendant says something else. So instead of saying, here's how you put your seatbelt, they say something like, hey, this plane is going to crash. Then I'm going to suddenly pay attention and go, what? What are you talking about? Because,
yeah,
because that's new and it doesn't align with my schema, right? And so that's what
yeah.
it talks about in this book. I mean, can you think of examples of situations where you've been, where something like that happened to you and it broke your schema?
Mm, yes, yes, yes. Okay. I think one of the time, one of the situation where I found my schema being broken is like I was traveling from Douala to Yaoundé, and there was those natural guys who are selling things in cars in bus,
Yes.
and most of the time when they enter, they are like, "Good morning, everyone. My name is Da Da Da. I'm in help since 10 years and I'm selling those things, and or sometimes they start by giving you some advices about health, and they finish by selling some product. But one time we were in the bus and a guy just entered, and what he does is what he did was that he started sharing what he had with everyone and saying it is free, just take it, it is free. He was just like, I'm not gonna sell something to you today. And after sharing, he started sharing things to people, and everyone in the bus were like, I want to have some, I want to have some. And everyone was like, why is he sharing for free? And we were like, okay, let's hear about what you have to say. And after, he was like sharing the small ones and trying to sell the biggest one.
Yeah.
So we were not expecting someone to come in a bus and say, I'm giving it to you for free. So after taking it for free, we're more available to listen to him.
Yes, that's right. So that's a great example. Thank you, Romantic. That's a great example used by salespeople. They use that a lot. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about how do you do this? And so, because when I was reading this chapter, I was asking myself, how could I do this really well? Because if you can do this, then you can at least make people pay attention. You may not keep their attention, but you can at least make them pay attention for a few seconds, which is all that everybody asks for.
Yeah.
And so in the book, it talks about the fact that, well, you always start by finding the core, right? That's the first thing you have to do, is get to the core of your message. And then you have to figure out what is counterintuitive on your core. So, for example, for that naturalist in the bus, the core is, hey, I need to sell them on the value of this so they can buy it. That's what they're trying to do. They're saying, look, I have something that will help you medically, so you should buy it from me. So the intuitive way is that you're going to think that he will tell you this is good, so buy it. The counterintuitive way is that he says it's free. And so he used the counterintuitive way to then get your attention and say, hey, this is free. And you go, wait, I didn't expect that. And then you have to communicate in a way that it breaks that guessing machine. So your guess was that he's here to sell me. He's going to tell me, hey, I'm this person. I've been doing medicine for a while. Hey, you know that you usually have these problems. And so if when you have those problems, here's something that can help you. It's 1,000 francs CFA. And he's like, no, I'm going to say that. I'm going to say, hey, it's free. Free gets everybody. And then
most of the time.
That's right. But then when you do that, you then have to come back and show them how to make sense of it, right? So he showed you how to make sense of it.
Yeah.
Probably he said something like, what I gave you is good. It's a small sample, but you probably need a little bit more. Right? He probably said something like that.
Exactly.
Okay, here's the rest. And so
exactly.
That person used exactly what's described in this book to get your attention and get you to listen to them. I think that the question is, how could each of us use this when we're communicating, when we're sharing our product idea, when we're sending a marketing message or something like that? Okay. All right, so I'm going to move to the next one. In the interest of time here, then was there any comment there? Okay, I thought I heard a comment. Hey Jacques, are you still here? I think your mic is on mute. I'm just checking if you're here.
Yeah. I mute my mic just to make sure that I don't.
Perfect.
News, but I'm here.
Okay, I got it. Cool. That's great. Okay, so concrete here. This was chapter 4. This was I really love this chapter because it talks about being down to earth and being concrete. It also says in the book, this is the easiest thing to do. This is the easiest of the success concept. And so what really described it for me was this math, right? Is that I actually, Jacques, I actually believed it, in what people used to say about how Asian teach their kids. I thought, they really use robotics, ways and force them to memorize and things like that. So when I read this book, I had to go out and do a little bit more research on that. Right.
Yeah, so there is an additional piece to that. So I started learning Chinese a couple of months back, and I was very surprised to see how they count. So, for example, do you know how they say 67 in Chinese?
No.
They say 6 times 10 plus 7. That basically 67.
Yeah.
67 is 6 times 10 plus 7. You just say that to say 67. So it's really interesting. The fact that, okay, even if you're not a math person, just because you know how to speak, you're already doing math. So I mean, I think it adds to it's some of all those things that would make the math, like, I mean, just speaking is concrete example for them. So
yeah,
it comes.
It is already creating pattern in their brain for math.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very powerful.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Because our brains. So, what was so when we say concrete, we all understand what it means, right? You have to bring things down to the most. It has to be closest to our sensors, to our sensory images, things that you can feel, hear, that kind of thing. Because you can remember exactly. So what was kind of interesting to me is that why do we make things abstract if we know this, right? I mean, if you sit in a business meeting or you sit in some corporate talk or anything like that, the conversation is always really high level, is abstract. It doesn't really go down to the concrete level most of the time. Why is that? And so this question, by the way, I think this was the tough thing for me, that my top takeaway from this chapter, because I myself find a lot of time that I'm speaking at the abstract level. And in the book, it talks about a concept called curse of knowledge. Do you remember that concept, Jacques?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Romai, I think we talked a little bit about some of this last week.
About it last week.
Yes.
So to go to that curse of knowledge, so from what I could, I don't know if I say I could understand from that, is they will tell you that the person who uses the abstract way of communicating see themselves as more knowledgeable.
Yes.
I don't know if so because I use more abstract words and all those things, I appear to be okay. I'm more knowledgeable than you are. I know more. I'm the I don't know. So versus the other person who would say, okay, I'm less knowledgeable, so I would just give like the basic, the simplest example. But that's exactly what we needed, because that's what we retain the most. So I remember this example about popcorn. So when you go to a movie and you take a bag of popcorn, it could say, oh, you have 20 grams of fat in that popcorn. And someone would come and say, no, in that popcorn, you have more fat than in one bacon and one egg and one this and one that. So it's than just say 20 grams of fat. But the person saying 20 grams of fat appears to be more
knowledgeable.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that, I mean, yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Romani.
sometimes more knowledgeable, you're like, people are not understanding really what you're trying to communicate to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you remember earlier, we talked about in the unexpected section, we talked about schemas, right? And so a schema is a network of knowledge pieces that you put together. And so the truth is that we're not always talking down to the basics, right? So you're not I don't explain computers by going all the way down to silicon and telling someone about it. Like, we can't do that all the time. So what you can do is you can build on people's schema. The challenge is that if you're trying to build on schema that people already have, meaning you build on the knowledge they already have, you have to go a little bit abstract. But if you go too abstract, then they can't connect to anything they already have and they can't remember it. And so I think the key is that you really have to know your audience, right? If you're doing 30, 12
Yeah.
times 3, if you're doing 12 times 3 and you take some kids in kindergarten and you start doing number 3, they would quickly be lost, right? They're going to lose interest. They're gone. They're not interested in what you have to talk about. But if you take some kids that are maybe in 6th grade and you're talking about it in a concrete, they'll think that you think they're dumb. So the key about being concrete is that you always have to bring it down to where it attaches to the existing schema of your audience. I really like the example he gave from Boeing, because this is a true example of Boeing. Some of the numbers here may not be correct because I didn't remember the actual numbers, but the idea is there, is that when they wanted to build the plane, the 747, they gave the goal to the team and they said, okay, we want you to go ahead and build the plane that will, it must carry 133 passengers. It must fly from Miami to New York, and then it must land on runway 33. The idea is that runway 33 is the shortest runway, so you want it to land on the shortest runway. 133 passenger at the time was a lot of passengers, so it must carry many people. And then it must fly a long distance, which is from Miami to New York, something like that. This is very concrete versus build the largest, fastest airplane in the world. Like, if you did that, it wouldn't really tell you much. But this made it really concrete for that team. And that I really like the idea and what they did there. That was pretty amazing. So thoughts, additional thoughts from you guys on this?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a food for thought. So when they say that the curse of knowledge is the enemy of being concrete, right?
Yes.
That begs the question to know, when should you I mean, I don't want to say that you should gain less knowledge, but how should you filter your own knowledge to make sure that
Yeah.
you appear with that curse of knowledge? Because
Mhm.
you would never ask someone to go and get less knowledge because
Yes.
you will get the curse of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So it really begs that question, like, okay, how do you make yourself in that mental track where you're mindful of the examples that you give, the speech that you give, like, okay, how how do you make sure that you use the right words, the right examples to remain concrete while delivering a speech?
Yeah. So that was a question. That was such a important question that I was looking for the answer to that, because he provided instructions on how to make something unexpected. So he gave clear step by step. You can do these things and it will be unexpected. But for concrete, he said, this is the simplest thing. So I guess he himself had a curse of knowledge there, because to him, it was so simple that he thought it's simple for everybody. Right. My thought, though, it's that you have to remember the Tapper listener test when you're preparing your idea. You recall your Tapper listener test, right? Yeah, I think the key is to remember that Tapper listener test and put yourself as a listener when you're writing your.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I have another question.
Yes.
Yeah. The thing is that for me, it looks like there are some contradiction between using schema to communicate, like leveraging what other people already know to make what you want to tell them more easy to understand, and the curse of knowledge. How can you get balance between two concepts? Like I want like, for example, to not be trapped in the curse of knowledge and explain everything to be sure that what I'm saying doesn't need some additional knowledge to be understandable. And I also want to leverage the schema other people already know. So I'm like, when you want to use the schema, you can fall down in the curse of knowledge. When you're using the curse of knowledge, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And I think that's what we were saying here, is that if depending on your audience, right? If by making concrete you go down all the way to the basics, but you're talking to a panel of experts, they're going to be bored very quickly, right? But if you're speaking to some people that have no idea what the concept is, you have to bring it down to the basics. So I think there's definitely a point here that you need to know your audience in order to adjust to the right level. At least that's what I took from it, because I have to be able to say, this message is going to everybody because I'm going to post it on the internet. So I need to make sure a grandma reading the message would understand. I also need to make sure that a PhD reading the message will still find it interesting. So how do I write it in that way? But if I'm writing a paper that I'm sending just to the PhD people, then I may change the schema that I attach the paper to. But that's what I got from it. So you have to kind of know your audience in order to make it concrete enough. Is how I got it.
Okay.
Thoughts on?
Yeah, I think it's all.
Did we lose Jack?
No, I'm here.
Okay, no, I was just asking if you had some thoughts on what I just said.
To be honest, I didn't follow the last part.
Okay, yeah. So Romaric said that. Romaric, you want to repeat your question?
No, I think I heard his question. So he was about how do you remain simple and use people's schema while at the same time going around the knowledge, right? Yeah, I heard that question.
Yeah.
And that's at the point where someone came and talked to me.
No problem. So what I said is in my what I got from this is you need to know the audience so you can put the concreteness at the right level of the schema.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're speaking to people that have absolutely no idea what the concept is, then you probably need to bring it further down to the basics. But if you're speaking to expert, then you probably need to start up, because if you bring it down, they're going to be bored. So really, you have to take that into account, in my opinion.
Yes, yes. And another thing is, I think it also boils down to the type of examples that you use.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I remember this example about cars. So everyone knows about cars. If you're talking about high performing car and all that, and you have to describe it, people already know. So if you saying, oh, I want to get this new very high performing car, they say, okay, by using the term high performing, it's still abstract. But if you say, I'm getting this V8 engine car, so people relate to that, and they know that, okay, V8 engine speaks to them, and they would know that it's something really high performing. So instead of just using the word high performing, you go there. You're still going around the curse of knowledge, in the sense that you're not trying to just push words out there, but you're also appealing to the. I mean, you're also giving the message that this car is not the usual everyday car, so it's something a little bit better than the average car, or something like that.
Yeah, good. It looks like Sage is on mute.
Oh, Serge, yeah, you are on mute. We can't hear you.
So I was saying that this is the sorry, that this was the last concept for this week. So for next week, let's read chapter 4 and 5, and then let's meet again, same time, same place next on Sunday. Is that good?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good.
There's a quick poll.
Okay, Jacques. So see you on WhatsApp, right?
What was that, Romero?
See you on WhatsApp, right?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Send me. Maybe your email would be best, but yeah, send me something on WhatsApp. I will.
Okay.
I would send you the PDF.
Okay, perfect. Don't
Okay,
forget
good.
to rate the discussion. You probably had a question show up on the screen for that.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. You have a great.
1 star is correct, right?
What was that?
1 star is good enough, right?
You put the one that aligned with what you got.
Okay, talk to you Saturday. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, good.
Daddy.